No matter what your role is at your work, as a member of a BCA, you play an important and significant role in relaying these important stories to your audiences. Some of the stories we're sharing this morning are intended to inform, others to advocate, and others to raise funds. We just want to take these few minutes with you to share the amazing work that God is doing in individuals and in communities that has inspired us and continues to inspire us, and we hope will inspire you.
So before we start, we wanted to just kind of tell you how we started a little bit. We started working together for magazines and newspapers and at our college. And Vivian actually hired me. I think we might have already talked about that. But in the last 15 or 20 years, we've transferred into being more focused on telling humanitarian stories for both faith-based and secular organizations. And I want to begin with a couple of stories about persecution. After the earthquake in Pakistan in 2005, I worked with a small aid group for disaster relief. And while working with this organization, I became aware of the persecuted church in Pakistan and began to document their stories over a period of 5 years and 5 trips. Now less than 2% of the population of Pakistan is Christian. And it was a difficult story to tell or to photograph because it was crucial to hide the identities of most of the people. This woman is the matriarch of a family that had had generations of Christian leaders, and they were involved in education. Her son directed an elementary school that served both Christian and Muslim students, which was very rare.
So a distinctive in the school was that all children could drink from the same water fountain. Outside the school in their village, water fountains were kept separate for each group. So because the school was considered one of the best in the area, the director was able to create a haven for Muslim and Christian children to learn together. The director of the school said it could be challenging because every so often the school would receive a threat. And so he told us that when they did receive a phone call that was threatening the school, we're going to bomb it, we're going to burn it, or whatever, he told us a story that I call the tea story. And this was, he would talk to the person on the phone, he would try to calm them down, and then he would invite them to tea. And so the person would accept the tea invitation, they would talk, he would address their issues, their concerns, and that they would not follow through on their threat. And so I was so impacted by that kind of wise and graceful, godly response. It gave me a lot of insight that I didn't have before as to what it's like to live under persecution because of your faith.
There are stories of resilience like Vivian just mentioned. Living as a minority in Pakistan is not easy. This man right here was in hiding because of a false charge of blaspheming Islam. He was later caught, we found out, and he had to serve over a year in jail. And then many Christian Pakistanis are also limited to low-income, low-paying jobs. This 75-year-old brickmaker had to produce 1,000 bricks. I mean, imagine that. This is only a few right here, but 1,000 of them per day for $2.60, according to the information we received. But you can see how I've photographed the story, or picture about him, or photo of him, but I also kept his identity so you couldn't see who he was. The day before our 5th trip, 2 villages were attacked and burned by Muslim extremists. By the time we got there, homes were still smoldering.
So once we returned, the stories were used by that small nonprofit we were working with. But later on, it ended up having a bigger reach. We had a friend who connected us to an editor at CNN, and they were also interested in the story. They ended up using a gallery of Gary's photos, and I wrote a piece for their faith blog.
So another story of persecution that I wanted to share with you was in Nigeria. This one was for Christianity Today, about the conditions of Christians persecuted by Fulani herdsmen and Boko Haram. An abandoned school had been turned into a transition camp for those that were fleeing the violence. And by the time I got there, over 5,000 families had passed through this particular camp. This was another camp, and it was a camp for orphaned or at-risk children from the risk from the violence. The older boy, as you can see here, was left for dead after his family was attacked with machetes and guns. And if you look closely, you can see that this boy has machete scars on his face and his head. This girl, another orphan, was at the same camp, and she was from a village after her parents had been killed. In this one here, pastors, visitors, and guards pray on top of a mass grave in Dimbrook, where Fulani herdsmen had massacred 483 Christians. So food distributions helped by the large aid groups, but they weren't enough. There was always shortages of food at the IDP camps. And mothers and children cook a basic meal at one of the newest camps in Benue. You know, set up for the Christians that were fleeing. And it was actually, you can see the camp is still under construction. There's still scaffolding on the building, but they filled up quickly. And in the background, children are under thatched roofs trying to get some semblance of education. Displaced from the farm, some families took the initiative to begin planting in a very not so hospitable land. A mother and her children sleep in a hallway at a camp for displaced persons. And because of overcrowding, men had to sleep outside except on rainy days when they were allowed in. So living conditions at the IDP camp were less than ideal, to say the least, but many were still afraid to return to their homes. The purpose of the story was to call attention to the persecution in Nigeria. And a copy of this magazine from Christianity Today was sent to every member of the U.S. Congress.
And while these first two stories that we've shared informed on different needs of the persecuted, these next stories highlight individuals and groups that provide hope and solutions. This is a story of a pastor in Ghana named Wisdom. He was concerned about creating jobs that would provide a livable wage for his community. So in partnership with a church in the U.S., he began a tilapia farm on Lake Volta. The notable aspect of this story is that Wisdom didn't know how to swim, but he led this project anyway for the sake of families in his church. And as you can see in this photo, this isn't a safe job, particularly if you have no swimming skills.
And just to add something here, I felt like as I was walking on these little narrow things, I can swim, but it was difficult, so I cannot imagine not knowing how to swim.
What a brave man.
So here is Olivia, a nurse, and also in rural Ghana, and in partnership with the same church as the last story. She at the time had delivered more than 1,600 babies in the last 10 years. And the clinic has no electricity and no running water. But it's considered an oasis for the local women, as the closest medical assistance would be 30 miles away along a pothole, dusty dirt road. Olivia told me, "Since I came here, I have never lost a baby. I know God has helped me a lot." So here Olivia was training a male nurse. And here a birth that started at 5 a.m. and Olivia delivered another healthy baby. And you know, while Olivia didn't lose a baby, or that's what she said, she never lost a baby, I did lose a photo. I sure wasn't expecting that this baby's mom, just several hours after the delivery, would be getting on a motorbike outside and driving away with that baby in her arms. I mean, I missed a great story-ending photo, but you know, it's a lesson learned. Always be ready when you're telling these kind of stories. And here's Olivia outside the clinic.
Okay, here we have a blind student in India. This is Johendra. And you're seeing that he's feeling the wall to leave that room. This room, well, actually the whole house doubled as a school for him and 91 other deaf and blind children. This story for a Christian nonprofit was used to show the need for a new facility that would relieve that overcrowding.
And here you have a blind teacher and the pastor also, and they're both leading a music class for the students, the blind students.
And this is a Braille class?
And another Braille class led by this pastor that started this home.
Here, Rashmi teaches a class of deaf children.
And here the students learning sign language, which is really important. And I might add here too that these students, most of them, or these children, came from the streets. They were begging in the streets before the pastor brought them into the home.
So this isn't just a classroom. It's an exercise room, a lunchroom, and a bedroom for the kids as well.
And in the meal times were also very crowded.
So after the story was published, enough funds did come in for a new building that provided classrooms as well as more suitable housing for the students and the caretakers. And again, we're here this morning sharing this kind of work because what's great about all our work is that as communicators, the kind of impact that it can make for the kingdom of God is amazing.
And I was there when they started building the new place, but I haven't been back since it was finished because of the persecution in India now. It's not safe for me to go in. It's not safe for the people if I go in there to tell another story at this point. So Water Mission is another Christian nonprofit that we'd like to work with. They're out of Charleston, South Carolina, and they provide water solutions for developing countries. In December of 2020, the hurricanes Eta and Iota struck northern Honduras, devastating villages that were along rivers, creating massive flooding, destroying homes, bridges, roads, etc. That kind of disaster can lead to massive problems accessing safe water. So Vivian and I were tasked with documenting stories of affected individuals on the ground, focusing on their needs and the solutions that Water Mission could provide.
So this is a classroom at a school that had been turned into a temporary shelter during that time. And it was housing displaced people whose homes had been demolished by the flooding as a result of the hurricanes.
And you could tell because of the mask, this was at the...
during COVID.
During COVID. At another location, while I was taking a picture of this pastor, and you can look on his house. Right above the window is a water line for there too. If you can almost see it, that shows how high the water got. But as I was photographing this, Vivian came across another family nearby.
Yeah, so this was a neighborhood that all shared a water pump that were it fixed, it would provide safe water for the entire neighborhood. So I was walking around and I found this woman and her children who had narrowly escaped the storms and had just returned that morning to clean out their home. And they were, as you could see in that picture, the furniture was messed up. And so you can see in this picture how the flooding, even though the house wasn't destroyed, you can see the flood level there on the wall right above her head. So they had, as you can see, a lot of work ahead of them to clean up and replace all the furniture that was damaged and the appliances. But they were so happy to know that at least that very day, they would have safe water available to them in their home because Water Mission had been working to repair that system in that neighborhood.
I mean, you can plan as much as you want to try to find these kind of stories, but eventually, you have to trust God that He's going to lead you to people like this that you can tell their story.
And we had engineers to help us.
Yeah. This is one of the, like I said, it was during COVID, and this is one of the Water Mission engineers that would go around and help us as they were repairing the different facilities.
So while we've covered amazing stories around the world, is for us, it's wonderful to partner with an organization right here in Atlanta. So this is the last story we want to share with you guys. And it is about Atlanta Mission. They serve people who are experiencing homelessness, providing food, housing, but much more. They also address long-range issues like mental health counseling, addiction recovery, and job training. Our favorite part of covering these stories is watching the transformation of folks as we see them from assignment to assignment.
Here's Counseling 101. They provide professional counseling as needed. And this is Restoration House, one of their facilities. It's the entry point for mothers and their children. They're just basically getting them off the street into a safe place. But once they've been in a safe place for a while, they have another place called My Sister's House. That's the next step. It's this transitional housing while the women work and seek permanent homes. Now, the interesting thing, though, about this place called My Sister's House is they named it that because when a kid goes to school and somebody says, well, where do you live? They could say, well, I live at my sister's house. So it wouldn't be embarrassing for the children. And this is an example of how the photos are used for social media and other platforms. And we want to make sure to mention that clients give permission and sign waivers before their photos are ever used. These are real people, not models, and it's not anything that AI can really replace.
Hopefully. All right. Of course, feeding those experiencing homelessness is one of the basic services at the Shepherd's Inn for men. And prayer and Bible study is foundational for all their programs.
So here's another example of just one of the ways they use the photos for social media.
So in some cases, we've been privileged to witness the first days of a person's entry into the mission and been able to see the progress they've made into a job training program, which is what this is showing. And it's a special day when someone rings that bell. It's celebrating that they've been employed after the job training program, and it's a crucial part of their journey to self-sufficiency. So this is one of my most favorite pictures because it just shows how wonderful it can be to go through this journey to self-sufficiency. So in conclusion, we hope you've been inspired by these stories that we've shared, and we really want you to reflect on your own work. No matter what role you're in as a communicator, God is doing great things with small and big projects everywhere. And so we pray that you would embrace what you do to further God's kingdom.
Brand, you going to ask some questions for us?
One of the things, just listening to your presentation, one of the things that was just apparent is that you've gotten to travel all over to tell these stories, but they've also been a way to basically, you use the digital platform as if it's a mission field. So some of the stories, they're not just going to Christian audiences, they've gone out to other groups as well. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned from having those opportunities? And how do you go about telling stories with that kind of in mind?
Well, one thing, we come from a journalism background. So one thing that we always keep in mind are the ethics of storytelling. And we don't want to make things seem bigger or worse or better or anything than they really are. We try to keep it to the truth for these kind of stories. And as far as digital platforms, yeah, once you put a picture out there, a blog post, anything, it can go anywhere at any time. And there's a lot of power in that. I mean, we take that seriously. That's why we want to be ethically sound in everything that we do.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well, so one of the things too for the two, you have the opportunity to collaborate a lot. And so what are some of the things that you've learned and how to collaborate and how to share stories well as a team that others could maybe learn from as well?
Well, I'll do it you want to do it first?
I was going to say, stay in your lane.
Yeah,
know
exactly.
Know what your skills are, your skill set, and stay there. And I think we learned that from the get-go when we were in college and I hired you. And I knew what you did well, you knew what I did well, and we stayed in our lane, and we continue to stay in our lane.
But even above that too, so if I'm taking pictures of somebody, all of a sudden I have a technical problem, and she can see that I'm having a technical problem with my cameras, and so she can jump in and be
interviewing some more,
talking some more while I figure out my problem there. So yeah, teamwork is great.
Yeah.
Teamwork has been great.
Well, that's excellent. Well, those were some of the best questions that we had come in, and so we're just very, very grateful for y'all taking the time to come and speak to our members.
Well, it's great being here.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.